This is Mark Bell from SuperTraining Gym. SuperTraining Gym, the strongest gym in the West. We're here today at Slingshot World Headquarters, and I'm going to talk to you today about Operation Get Less Fatterist. We need an update. So I'm going to tell you guys how I'm doing. Operation Get Less Fatterist is a program that I start every single year in recognition of learning that we tend to gain a lot of weight October, November, December, and even into January, because we continue to put the diet off, and then we are, you know, by the time the summer comes around, we're like, oh shoot, we should start to get back in shape again. But by that time, it's usually too late because you maybe gained 8 pounds or 6 pounds or 10 pounds or whatever it is. So what I've been doing with my diet, you guys are aware, I've been talking a lot about this idea of protein leveraging. This protein leveraging theory is that when you eat a lot of protein, you start to eat less overall calories because protein is the most satiating thing. And so for anybody that wants to embark on this diet, or for anybody that just wants to take some of this advice and utilize it, or to incorporate it into anybody else's lives that are around you, please help share this message out and tell people, look, you got to eat more protein. You got to figure out a way. Now, I'm not going to try to sway you from your particular diets. I'm not going to try to sway you from anything too specifically, unless you want to follow along with exactly what I'm doing. Then that's a little bit different. But in general, what you'll learn, and what I learned from eating more protein and from embarking on this protein leveraging theory, was that as I leaned into eating more protein, it seemed to continually help keep me on track. Like the diet promotes the diet. The eating of protein helps to promote eating more protein. Now, you may also have to utilize a little bit of like intermittent fasting or something like that, because protein is very satiating. And so by eating a lot of protein, it drives down your hunger. It drives down your cravings. What are some other things that can help drive down hunger, help drive down cravings? Making sure that you're hydrated. So just drinking more water. Making sure that you're getting proper sleep, or just enough sleep. Trying to get 7-8 hours of sleep. For me, I tape my mouth shut every night. I wear a little nose strip type deal. I have an eye mask. I mean, it looks like I needed like an entire helmet just to go to sleep. But for you, do whatever you need to do to help you go to sleep. The mouth tape helps me to breathe through my nose, which has, for some people, has been really helpful in helping against minor causes of sleep apnea. It's supposed to be a more efficient way of breathing, is to breathe in and out of your nose, especially throughout your sleep. It's supposed to prevent something called hypoxia, which when you have hypoxia, you're basically you're not getting enough oxygen. And you end up waking up in the middle of the night, and you end up using the bathroom quite a bit, which is something I have dealt with for, I don't know, the last 12 years or 10 years or so. And so by taping the mouth shut, it's helped. But I don't really care that I get like more sleep, because I don't really feel tired. But what I do care about is I don't want to have cravings. I don't want to end up, you know, going through a pint of Ben & Jerry's. I want to try to stick to the plan and stick to the diet. And the more well-rested you are, the easier that will become. Some other things that I've noticed were I started to have leaner sources of protein. Now, you don't have to go crazy, and you don't have to necessarily have chicken and turkey and things like that. If you enjoy those things, that might be helpful. But I just switched to like leaner steaks, leaner cuts of meat. Because in the past, when I've been doing carnivore diet, when I've been doing keto diet, I have to admit, I was just consuming too much. I was just consuming too much energy. And the protein to energy ratio is actually a really important thing. So protein, in my opinion, is not a source of energy. We have fat as a source of energy, and we have carbohydrates as a source of energy. And we get to pick which one would we like to utilize. We don't have to pick just one. You can pick either one, or you can choose both of them if you'd like. It's just that normally, under normal circumstances, if you're going to eat more fat, you're going to want to try to eat less carbohydrate. If you eat more carbohydrate, you want to try to eat less fat, because we need a balance of the amount of energy that we take in. If the energy is here, then we're going to end up here. Boop, right? That's going to blow you up. It's going to make you fat, because you're going to have what's called energy toxicity, and we don't want that. We don't need that. So what are ways that we can balance that out? Well, let's go right down the middle. Rather than like making both of these high, let's just bring that protein up. Have the protein be nice and high. And then the carbs and fats can kind of fall where they may. And what I mean by that is, Each day might look a little different. You might have, a ribeye at dinner, so you might have extra fat calories. But if you have extra fat, maybe with that meal you don't eat hardly any carbohydrates. Maybe the only carbohydrates in that particular meal comes from vegetables. Or maybe you know that you would like to enjoy a steak and a baked potato for dinner. And so maybe the dinner is placed post-workout, because you can eat carbohydrates post-workout a little bit easier. The body is going to be more prepared for those carbohydrates. Maybe you don't have, maybe that's not in your schedule. Maybe you can't do that. And so maybe the steak and the baked potato that you have, maybe instead of a ribeye, you go with a New York strip, because a New York strip is a little bit leaner. And you're bringing down the fat calories because you know you're going to eat the potato. Maybe at lunch you make an adjustment and you have a salad or you have vegetables with your whatever source of protein it is that you eat, because you know that later on in the day you're going to eat a good amount of carbohydrates. You know that you want to eat sushi that night. I ate sushi just a couple days ago. And so to kind of, quote unquote prep for the sushi, I'm not a real crazy person with my food, or at least I don't feel like I am. I don't feel like there's anything difficult or hard about it. It doesn't bother my family. I have a wife, I have 2 kids, and I'm not running around with Tupperware all the time or anything strange like that. I'm not, bringing my own food to restaurants. I'm not whipping out a scale at a restaurant. So I don't have these kind of strange behaviors that, or I might not have some of these behaviors that we might see people do that are getting ready for a bodybuilding show. Things are just not that serious for me. I'm just trying to get a little bit leaner. This is Operation Get Less Fatterist, and we're trying to mainly just not get any fatter rather than like rip off tons of body weight. But if you want to follow along with exactly what I'm doing, just keep following along on this YouTube channel. I'm going to continue to give you guys more information, but the real basics of it are I'm eating lean sources of protein. The carbohydrate sources that I choose don't have fat in them. When I eat fat, I try to eat a little bit less carbohydrate. So hopefully that all makes sense, but it's pretty cut and dry. It's pretty easy to understand. So what are carbohydrate sources that don't have fat in them? Fruit, vegetables, right? Potatoes, rice. I could even eat some bread if I wanted to. I could have some cereal if I wanted to. I could have a Rice Krispie treat if I wanted to. Now, I normally wouldn't choose those foods. I could have them, like on my way back from Tahoe a few weeks ago. I was like, you know what, I could use a little bit of sugar. I could use a little bit of carbohydrates because I'm no longer on a keto diet. I'm no longer on a carnivore diet. I'm not really running off of fat. I'm not trying to run off of my own body fat, and I'm also not trying to run off of dietary fat. I'm trying to have my workouts optimized, and the way to have workouts optimized sometimes is to utilize carbohydrates as a weapon, so that when you do your training sessions, you could put a lot into them and you can induce protein synthesis, and so that you can kind of assist your body in being able to absorb more nutrients. When you go and train, you're not really just burning calories. You're trying to build muscle mass that will burn calories in the future. And so your training sessions are actually pretty important. And when you start to think about it that way, you're like, wow, if I could just train a little bit better, imagine if you could just train 2 or 3% better kind of all the time. Well, that percentage over a long period of time is going to really manifest and turn into something long term. Maybe it leads to you having an extra pound of muscle every other month. Maybe you gain, 4 pounds of muscle or 6 pounds of muscle or whatever it might be. It's not easy. It's not easy to do that. Maybe it's even a little bit slower than that. But you understand my point is that muscle consumes calories. Muscle needs calories. Whereas the body fat that you have in your body, it's just kind of sitting there, right? So other sources of carbohydrates that I consume, I could potentially have some juice here and there, but I try to stay away from those things. Oatmeal, I utilize some intra-workout carbohydrates, some post-workout carbohydrates, and that's usually just in the source of a carb powder. You can buy those off of Amazon. You can get dextrose. You can get an unflavored one. You can buy ones that have flavor in them, and you can, whatever flavor you enjoy. It's really kind of up to you. I don't want to try to make that any more complicated than it is. Sources of protein are real simple, just lean sources of protein. chicken, turkey, Piedmontese steak. I always recommend Piedmontese steak. They are a sponsor of our podcast and they're good friends, and they have the best steaks that I've found. They're very lean, they're very tender. If you want to get a percentage off, you can use the code MarkBell when you go over there. Use that at checkout. I think you get 25% off, free shipping on any orders over $100. So go check out Piedmontese.com for more information. But their steaks have about half the amount of fat as a lot of other steaks that you might buy from a supermarket. So it gives you the opportunity, gives you the option to eat steak. The other thing I love to eat is fish, and I also eat a lot of shrimp. Oysters, mussels, any of that stuff is very, very low in fat and very high in protein. And so you really want to try to keep that protein high. How high should it be? I would say, go at least 1 gram per pound of body weight. So if you weigh 200 pounds, you should have 200 grams of protein minimum. But I would even like to see you work towards 1.25 or 1.5. If you're somebody that is just really heavy, you have a lot of body weight on you, I would still suggest that you go about 1 gram per pound of body weight in terms of protein, because the protein is going to still help to drive down hunger. And that is the main thing that we face when we're talking about diet, is we just get extremely hungry. So that's what I'm doing for Operation Get Less Fattest. There's one more thing that I think you guys are going to be excited about that I haven't done before. And what we're going to do is, we're in it for a long period of time, to ask people to go from October through November, through December, and through January is quite the long haul, right? And you guys know I'm full of tricks, and that probably won't be the end of it. I'll just keep making you diet or something like that anyway, right? But because it is such a long haul, we're going to throw in some cheat meals, and I'm going to make you guys part of that. And I would love to actually hear from you guys what you would like to see me cheat with, because I know that as exciting as it is to get jacked and tan, you guys are usually more pumped about the cheat meals. But I want you to join in with me on those, and I will make you aware of when we're going to do those. But for now, what I'm asking of you is I want you to put in the work. I want you to shop for some of the foods that I mentioned. I want you to get used to it. I want you to ask questions. Whey protein is another great source of protein now that I'm thinking about it. But I want you to ask questions, and I want you to start to share information with each other, because I can't always get to all the questions. And remember, we have a Facebook group for this as well, Operation Get Less Fattest. There's also a lot of information on markbell.com that you can check out. And you can continue to follow along right here. But I would love for you guys to encourage each other. I would love for you guys to continue when somebody's like, hey, what carbohydrates did he say? Help each other out. If you think you know the answer, try to continue to help each other out. I really appreciate all the positivity that I've seen on this YouTube channel. It's been amazing. It's been fantastic. And then also when it comes to these cheat meals, if you guys can let me know, do I need to hit up Carl's Jr.? Do I need to go to McDonald's? Where do I need to go for some of these cheats? And I want to film those, and I want to share information with you guys about those, because the cheat meals are really interesting, and the way that you feel the next day and stuff is there's just a lot to talk about there. I think for me, sometimes if I cheat, I sometimes have kind of I want to cheat the next day. If I fed the craving of a sweet tooth type of thing at night, I wake up the next morning and I just want to do the same thing. It kind of reminds me of like an addiction, or like an alcohol addiction, where the only thing that solves a headache from an alcohol addiction is more alcohol. So it's a slippery slope, but I think it's a good thing to talk about, and it's good for you guys to understand that just because I've been doing this stuff for a long time doesn't mean I don't suffer from all the same things that you guys suffer from. I have to deter myself from certain food choices every single day, multiple times a day. I have to say, no, that's not the way that you eat. Nope, that's not for me. Nope, you're not living by the code. Nope, you're off the team. Don't do that shit. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't eat it. And the other side of me saying, you should eat it. You should relax. You've been kicking ass. You've been making a lot of money. You've been lifting a lot of weights. You've been getting jacked. You've been getting strong. You've been sharing out a lot of information. You have worked really hard. You had a great week with your family. You should eat it. You should eat it. You should eat it. And the other side saying, fuck that. Don't do it. Don't do it. So I'm going through all the same things that you guys go through. I know that you guys having these internal battles, and I know how difficult it can be. But imagine if you could start to override that, and imagine if you could start to push that back more and more and more and more, and start to continue to make the right choices over a long period of time. You'd lose 5 pounds, you'd lose 7 pounds, you'd lose 12 pounds, you'd lose 20 pounds, and you'd be like a lot of the people that have been watching, that have been sharing information on how effective and how much of an impact this channel has had on their fitness. So I'd love you guys to continue to join me on Operation Get Less Fatterous. Strength is never a weakness. Weakness is never a strength. Catch you all later.